Hi everybody, this is Naturalist James Anderson from the Marion County Park District. How are you all doing? Well, we're finally in the spring season. It's probably one of my most favorite seasons of all. Many different reasons, but one of the big reasons is the wildflowers. I love seeing all the different kinds of wildflowers we can find in our own properties and especially our local parks. Well, today's episode is going to be about the wildflower patch here at Marion Tallgrass Trail. Now, don't get me wrong, there are wildflowers along the entire Marion Tallgrass Trail, but I am at a very special place. Again, I like to call the wildflower patch, and it's right in between miles 5 and 6, or right in between Schmidt Road and Agosta-Meeker Road. For some reason, this spot just has a lot of diversity when it comes to wildflower species. And if you want to check them out, you got to check them out here soon, because these are special wildflowers. These are called Spring Ephemeral Wildflowers. And basically what that means is these flowers are here just for a short period of time, or at least their blooms are. Now their leaves may stay out a little bit longer, sometimes not, just depending on the species. Now unfortunately there are a few, like bloodroot, that I didn't make it out here in time. And the bloom is gone, but the leaves are still present. So again, that's an example of a spring ephemeral wildflower. So hopefully after this episode, you'll learn about some of the wildflower diversity that you can find here at Marion Tallgrass Trail or the Wildflower Patch. Hope you enjoy the show, folks. And always remember, when you're looking at wildflowers, just make sure to take pictures and don't take them, because they're a part of our ecosystem and very important for all of us. So when you hear the word spring ephemeral wildflower, it just basically means a short life cycle, or they just quickly fade away when it comes to the bloom. The blooms are only out just for a short period of time. It could be a week, maybe 2 weeks, all depending on weather and other factors. But the reason why their blooms have such a short lifespan is they're trying to actually compete against the trees. They're trying to hurry up, and they're trying to complete their life cycle and get pollinated so they're able to reproduce their fruits, their seeds, or whatever the case may be, before the trees start to leaf out and cause a lot of shadow, because these spring ephemeral wildflowers, since they're plants, they need some type of sunlight in order to grow. And again, with having a lot of shade on top of them, they just can't grow as well. So that's why they're just trying to hurry up, and they're trying to compete against the trees for the good old sun. So I always love these little guys. This is Dutchman breeches, and they're cute. I kind of think they look like the old style long john pajama pants that we used to wear. I think it looks like they're hanging upside down. Now they do have a cousin that's really closely related. It's called squirrel corn. And squirrel corn a lot of times will grow right next to or on top of Dutchman breeches, but they don't really have that really wing appearance like you see on these guys. They really do look like a little corn kernel. So a lot of times they're very hard to distinguish even by leaves. It almost looks like Queen Anne's lace kind of appearance. But the best way to find out if it's squirrel corn or Dutchman breeches is obviously when they're blooming. And there's a lot of these guys out right now at Marion Tallgrass Trail. This is Spring Beauty. Great way to identify it. It's got that white petal background, but it's got those beautiful pink stripes. A lot of people think these are pest species because a lot of times they do grow in lawns. And unfortunately, people will put herbicides down and will chop them or mow them down, and they just don't realize that these guys are just one of nature's cute little flowers. Other than the petals, I have to move these guys. They don't get very big, as you can see, but they do have kind of a long leaf blade. It's very short, and a survival tip, you can eat them. This is wild blue phlox. Great way to identify it. As you kind of look at the petal, it almost makes like an X shape. That's how I always remember it. And then if you look at the tip of each petal, there's kind of a little notch that's a really great way to identify a lot of phlox species here in Ohio. Now, as you can see, it's got a very long stalk where the petal is, and the leaves can be clear on top by the petals and throughout the rest of the plant. So that's another way you can identify it. And then if you look kind of here in the back, where all this looks like extra leaves, some of those are called brackets that help support the petals up, and that's another cool way to identify this plant. Here we have a May apple. Reason why it gets its name, because it blooms around May time, and then about late summer, early fall, depending where you are, it does make kind of a little of a apple fruit. So I'll show you where the bloom. It's not out yet, but here in the next probably 3 weeks or more, just depending on weather, that'll be a nice white flower. Now, other than the flower, the really cool way to identify it is those leaves. Those leaves are huge. It's about as big as my hand. And I know you're looking at this, and it is split off or is forked, and you can actually age it if it's a 1 or 2 year old. A 2-year-old will do this. It will split off, and they are the only ones that produce that little flower or fruit. Then I have one right on top of me. This is a 1-year-old, so only has just the one umbrella. Just like phlox, again, has that nice long stalk or stem, and then you got the flower clear up there. So that is another way to identify this plant. What's actually pretty cool is these guys can kind of clone each other, and they do make really large clumps. And even though it looks like all individual May apples, it's just one giant May apple patch. So yeah, that's pretty cool. This is one of the water leaves. These guys are not out right now with their bloom, but reason why they call it water leaf, because as you can see, it looks like rain has been dropped on the actual leaflets, and it's a very beautiful markings, but they have kind of a whitish pinkish flower. They'll be coming out later this spring, but as you can see, it does grow in a nice little clump. Here we have is bloodroot. So as I mentioned before, these guys are one of our few early spring ephemeral wildflowers that bloom, and if you wanted to see them, definitely about end of March to early April, kind of depending where you are, but for the most part here in Marion County, Ohio, most of the blooms are gone. So the way to identify it, and I learned this from my instructor, but if you kind of look right here at the end of the leaf, it kind of looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost. So cool little fun way to remember that. But kind of like mayapple, it does have that nice kind of umbrella effect. And reason why it gets its name bloodroot, and we're not going to dig up this plant because we want to keep these wildflowers intact, is if I were to dig up this plant and break it, it would look like it's bleeding. A lot of the Native Americans would use it for dyes, for clothing, and ceremonial purposes. But it has a very beautiful white petals, yellow center flower. So this is cutleaf toothwort. A lot of people get this confused with spring beauty because of the petals are about the same color, but I actually do have some spring beauty right by me. Again, those are those nice pink stripes, which cutleaf toothwort does not have. And just remember that as spring beauty does get older, those pink stripes do kind of disappear. But look how short spring beauty is. I can even show a little bit taller plant. But again, the leaves, it has that leaf blade, but these guys, then their name, have the cut leaf. There has been some document that they have been used for types of seasoning. They have for their roots. I guess it has a very strong peppery taste. So here we have is a bellwort. And the reason why it gets its name bellwort because the flower is in shape of a bell. So a really great way to identify this spring ephemeral wildflower. As you can see, the petal or flower is hanging down, it's drooping. Versus, a lot of our other wildflower species, they kind of perk up. For the leaves, they kind of look very silky, very shiny appearance at times. But kind of like the phlox, they have that really long stalk. That's another great way to identify them. And just kind of like spring beauty as well, at times these guys grow in clumps. Here's a special treat, guys. This is Jack in the Pulpit. Now, they're pretty common in the state of Ohio, most counties, but I always love Jack in the Pulpit or anything in the Aramiaceae family because they are probably, in my opinion, one of the most unique wildflower groups out there, at least in the state of Ohio. As you can see, you're probably saying, well, is that the actual flower? You're seeing this weird looking thing up here. That is actually called the spathe. And that's basically to protect the actual flower. Let me see if I can do this well. See that little thing in there? Looks like a finger. That is technically the flower. That's called a spadix. And a lot of times it's a composite flower, so the males are on top and the female parts are on the bottom. And very, very unique. And these guys, they say they can be edible for the fall time if you make the jams or jellies out of the berries. So that's pretty cool. So other than the really weird shaped flower or style of flower, it's actually the leaf is growing right next to it. So yeah, this thing right beside it, again, is the leaf, and it's kind of like trillium. It does have that tri effect, or that looks like in threes. So pretty cool discovery. So here we have is a phyllate. Now there are a lot of different kind of phyllate species, and this one is the yellow phyllate. There's also the common blue phyllate. Now, I know it looks more of a dark purple. I always laughed at, I said maybe the first person who observed that wildflower maybe might have been colorblind. But what a lot of phyllates have in common is their flower arrangement is actually called irregular. So it's not kind of like Spring Beauty or what that has the nice simple petals, even though it looks like it. But if you look, you see the 4, the 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you look right underneath, excuse me, there's kind of one tucked right underneath. So when you're identifying a wildflower in a book, a lot of times you got to pay attention because sometimes they'll trick you, and sometimes these flowers will hold extra petals. Another great characteristic what phyllates have in common is that heart-shaped leaf. And as you can see, the edges are serrated, so they're teeth marks, and it's a cool way to distinguish the phyllate groups. And a lot of people don't like phyllates because they're considered a weed to a lot of people. So I always tell people, leave phyllates alone. You know, they're nice little wildflowers that add a little color to your lawn or to your landscape. And of course, we can't forget about our good old friend, the large flower trillium. The large flower trillium is actually our state wildflower. Now, when you say flower, you're thinking of carnations, but yes, the large flower trillium is the state wildflower. It was adopted in 1987. So it's been around for a little bit for one of our state symbols. But for trillium, really great way to identify them. It's got 3 leaves, and then in the back, it's got these 3 brackets. Like we talked about with phloxes, it kind of helps supports the petal. And then it's got 3 petals. So kind of 3 of everything. There are different species of trillium in the state of Ohio. The 2 most common is the large flower, which we're seeing now, and the toad shade trillium, which I haven't found yet here at Tallgrass Trail, but our other parks have them. So we'll definitely do another video about the toad shades. Well guys, I hope you learned something new about spring ephemeral wildflowers, and I hope you gain an appreciation of these organisms. They're wonderful to have here on planet Earth, and we're just so blessed to have such a diversity right here in Marion County. And not just at Marion Tallgrass Trail. Check out our other parks. Check out Paradise, check out Greensburg, Myers Woods, and also check out some of the other parks in Marion County. Big Island Wildlife Area, Pleasant Township Park, the Paradise Nature Center. Those are wonderful places to see such a great diversity of wildflowers. Well guys, have fun, be safe, but most of all, go out and explore your Marion County parks. I'm Naturalist James Anderson, and I'll see you all next time on Natural Lessons with me, Naturalist James Anderson. Bye everybody.